Uh, so I wanted to just chat a little bit about some of the trends that have been going on for a while with employees of brands actually featuring TikTok videos and content and really becoming like TikTok stars almost overnight in a lot of instances. I think it's a pretty interesting trend, and I know a lot of brands are having trouble figuring it out. I think if I if I remember correctly, this was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There was a whole big movement of brands trying to understand what the appropriate FTC disclosures were.
Mhm.
So basically, if you were an employee at, let's say, Jeep, and you post about the brand, people were saying, "Oh, do you need to basically come out and say, 'Hey, I'm an employee of Jeep' before you do this?" And there was a whole bunch of controversy over this, and that at the time was the employee as an influencer sort of like
Oh.
conversation, right? And it really sort of disappeared, I think, for the most part, because it didn't end up being that impactful, right? But now, fast forward to 2021, and we have all of these Gen Z folks posting on TikTok, but they're posting while they're on the job and they're doing a lot of different things, right?
Right.
So I know there's a trend, it's called life behind the counter, that we see where people who are maybe working at Subway or Wendy's or Chick-fil-A, and they're posting while they're on the job, right? Um, and so the question really is what what's the right move for brands in this environment? So I know we were talking a little bit about some of the brands that have done this, that have done a good job and a bad job, but
Mhm.
who who's the paint? Remind me, who's the paint company that
Sherman Williams.
yeah, so what was the deal there?
Yeah, so there was an employee of Sherman Williams who grew a really large following on TikTok, essentially mixing paints at work. And he would just make videos of him mixing different colors and sharing them online. He now has around 1.8 million followers. And when this was happening, he actually presented to the marketing team of Sherman Williams multiple times, trying to prove to them that this was a really viable opportunity for them to market themselves. And the marketing team kept telling him no. They kept shooting him down, and eventually he was fired from the company, essentially for doing this on the job.
It's so wild, right? I think it was like gross misconduct, and they seem to change your
Mhm.
story a little bit. But to me, it's like you're getting all of these free views, right? Of well, really all this brand awareness in a generation that I would think is a little bit harder for Sherman Williams to reach. So to me, this seems like
Uh,
a really big opportunity for them. I don't know about you, but I think this was a huge miss on their part. And I think collectively, it looks like over the last few months, people are saying the same thing. I do understand that he put blueberries into paint and mix it to turn it into a blue thing. And I can see why, some people, customers seeing that, not knowing, not understanding, might be a little confused. But it does really beg the question, is like, why would you fire someone instead of guiding them into something that works well for your
Right.
brand?
And I think the other miss too is it wasn't like he was just making the videos and not letting them know or bringing it to their attention.
Yep.
He presented the idea multiple times to the marketing team, and I think that shows that he saw it as a really great marketing opportunity. And I think the miss really was that they didn't see it as a
Hmm.
great strategy for them. And
Exactly.
like what you were saying, TikTok is the place to reach those Gen Z consumers. Those are the people who wouldn't necessarily be purchasing from Sherwin Williams in the first place. And that was your opportunity. So I think it was definitely a miss.
Yep.
And I mean, he was scooped up by another company.
That's
So it
right, which is
showed,
super smart. And I think he just started there not too long ago, right? So, and
yeah.
I believe they were even giving him his own paint line, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they were. He was allowed to develop his own line and continue what he was doing essentially.
Which to me makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, I think you have to channel the energy, right? Even if you think about junior people as employees, your goal as an employer, if you want to have really good employees, is to guide them, right? Like you don't just terminate them for something that's like, arguably not even that big of a deal.
Right.
I understand brands have to protect things, right? You look at, I think like KFC had a
Mhm.
video that like they showed making the gravy, which was pretty gross. And I think McDonald's had an employee post something about like mold in like the caramel dispenser. So you
We're
really have
better
to
off
watch.
not knowing that.
We are, but also I understand why brands are kind of scared about this. But I think, the idea
Yeah.
is like create a policy, do something about it, right? Like when you look at brands all the time work with influencers and they make special lines of
Right.
things like, Evolution of Smooth. We had highlighted that shaving cream or like shea butter sort of
Yeah.
shaving cream that they had done a specific partnership with a TikTok person who had, huge numbers, right? That's to me, it's like when you approach it from that mindset, you can make things a lot better. You can put policies in place to guide people on what's allowed and what's not. And even I think Dunkin', right? They just came out and they're encouraging people to be part of their crew, right? Do you want to talk a little about
Yeah,
what
I
that is?
mean, I think we're seeing a lot of retailers really lean into this as a strategy. And like you were saying, Dunkin' Donuts started a employee ambassador program essentially where they chose specific employees at different locations to film what they were doing throughout their workday, making different coffees and different products. And I think that's a good example of Duncan has obviously been really involved in TikTok already,
Right.
their partnership with Charlie. So they see the value in the platform, but I think they also see the value in these types of contents being popular and having these specific employees show what's going on behind the scenes and taking requests for certain drinks from their audience. And it's a really good example of leaning
Hmm.
into strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the right terminology too, is you kind of lean into it, and you can even use it to if you don't want to do like a paid partnership with someone, right? That's maybe an employee, maybe that doesn't work with your company. Even still, using that information to inform what you could do on your social channels and what that audience is resonating into. I mean, that's a huge gold mine of information, right? And I think
Yeah.
Chipotle actually did that. One of their employees was talking a lot about, like, I think she flipped the containers of food a certain way, and it kind of became a trend. And so they sort of leaned into it. And I think Cold Stone has or had that guy who was
Mhm.
doing all sorts of crazy like tricks with the ice cream and getting people to come in and like request things, and he was flipping it and mixing it. And if you actually look at Cold Stone Social, they're doing the same thing on their own, not with as much success, of course, but still it's informing them of what their audience wants to see on the platform. And that's like one of the hardest things to figure out, right? It's like
Yeah.
when you're launching on a brand new channel, like how do you do you as a brand, but do it in TikTok way, right? It's
Right. And
like,
that just goes back to who the audience is on TikTok, right? You
mhm,
have to figure out how to market to Gen Z. And this is where that generation is. They're interested in the behind the scenes. They're interested in knowing what's going on. They want to be included in the content by asking, oh, we want to see this drink made.
right.
And then going into the store and ordering what they saw made on TikTok.
Exactly. And think about, I mean, especially for these QSR style clients, it's like you're giving them an incentive to go into your store. That's
Right.
literally your entire marketing strategy, digitally, is getting foot traffic into the store. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think brands are nuts to ignore this. I think you definitely need to have a plan, right? You need to have guidelines for what's acceptable for employees to do and not. And there are going to be things like trade secrets that shouldn't be allowed, certain things shouldn't be shown. And of course, at the end of the day, you can't be filming a TikTok when you have a line out the door at Cold Stone.
Of course, or
So
showing customers or anything like that. You have
exactly. So I think there are guidelines, but I even think about how when we work so much with the automotive space, right? And you're shipping vehicles that are, sometimes $100,000 vehicle to an influencer. And it's like there are very specific rules and guidelines that we give our influencer partners on behalf of our brand partners to ensure that everything is sort of buttoned up. So I would just encourage brands to think about it from that standpoint and apply it to your employees. And ultimately, it should be a win-win situation.
Yeah, and I think like we've been saying, it's important to lean into these types of things. And maybe if you're a brand and you notice an employee starting to do this would be a perfect opportunity to launch your TikTok account and use it as a
Absolutely.
generate a following for the brand and use the employee as a means to do that.
Yeah. No, I think that's dead on. So it'll be exciting to see if and how this trend continues and how brands operate. But I think that's our 2 cents. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in exploring some influencer partnerships or getting launched on TikTok, hit us up.
Yeah.